think it was a pressure thing. I think it was more threatened by than hate.
It seems Morris Day is finally confirming the rumors about Prince and Rick James. Apparently, Rick James hated Prince. From accusing Prince of copying his style, trying to steal his spotlight, not showing him respect, and even being jealous of him.
Because Prince coming on strong, man. He's gaining momentum. Probably kicking Rick's some nights.
Prince, on the other hand, ignored all of it, which only drove Rick even crazier. Rick's constant controversies didn't help either. He and his girlfriend were once accused of holding a woman hostage, torturing her for days, and forcing her to do horrible things.
Finally today, pop singer Rick James is being accused of all kinds of terrible things, and authorities are taking it very seriously.
He also had a history of assault, drug and constant legal problems. It was a mess. Let's dive in. So Morris Day once talked about his time with Prince and how Rick James felt about him. It all started when Morris moved away for a while. Prince had already formed a new band called The Revolution. The band already had a drummer by then. When Morris came back to town, he hoped to get his old job back as the drummer. He felt confident because he thought he was a better drummer than the one Prince was using, Bobby Z. Morris believed it should have been an easy choice for Prince to take him back.
And I was coming back to town to get that job too. That was my slot. So, I'm thinking, I can play better than Bobby Z, so this should be a no-brainer.
But Prince was very honest and told Morris that he already had a drummer. That answer hurt Morris a little. Still, Prince offered him a different role. He told Morris he could hang around and help by videotaping the shows. Morris didn't love that idea, but he agreed to do it. He put his pride aside and became Prince's cameraman. Later, Prince went on tour with Rick James. At that time, Rick James was very popular. His hit song Super Freak was playing everywhere. People loved Rick James, and he was a big name in the music world. Prince got the chance to open shows for Rick James. That means Prince would perform first before Rick came on stage. Morris wasn't sure if he was on the very first tour, but he remembered going on one of them. He said it might have been during Prince's Dirty Mind tour. Either way, Rick James and Prince were both on the same tour at some point, and that's when things got tense. Morris said he read in Rick James's biography that Rick hated Prince. But Morris didn't think it was hate exactly. He felt it was more about fear. Rick saw how fast Prince was becoming popular. Prince was gaining fans quickly and giving great performances. Sometimes Morris believed Prince's performance was even better than Rick's on the same night. That could make anyone feel nervous. Rick probably felt like Prince was stealing the spotlight. So Morris believed that Rick James didn't truly hate Prince. He just felt threatened by him.
I think it was a pressure thing. I think it was more threatened by than hate.
During the tour, Morris wasn't really part of the group that hung out all the time. He was still working the camera. He didn't get close to the drama between Rick and Prince. Morris said he didn't know exactly what happened behind the scenes between them. He was just focused on filming. At that time, Morris hadn't become MD yet. He was still just the camera guy. Prince was already showing his unique style. He wore outfits that were different and bold, things like bikini underwear and a trench coat. That wasn't something most male performers wore back then. Still, the crowd accepted him. At first, people were unsure, especially the men. But once they saw how talented Prince was, they gave him respect. The women in the crowd loved him from the start.
Once they saw his musicianship and his ability to entertain, and he got that hall pass. The women, they don't really care about that kind of thing anyway, but guys especially,
By the end of that tour, Prince didn't need Rick James anymore. His name was growing fast. He became a star in his own right. Then, Prince got a spot opening for the Rolling Stones. That was a big deal. Morris was there for one of those shows. It was a huge outdoor concert, something like Woodstock or Coachella. It was packed with people. Morris remembered looking at the crowd and noticing something. Most of the men were tough-looking bikers. They had beards, tattoos, and wore leather. Then, Prince came on stage in his usual outfit, trench coat, high heels, and nothing but underwear underneath.
Man, hardcore biker looking dudes, you know, beards and motorcycles and tattoos and, you know, and then here comes Prince, and here he comes out, you know, trench coat back, legs out and stuff, man, and these dudes, they weren't having it, man. Next thing I know, I start seeing beer bottles flying up on stage.
The crowd didn't like it. Morris said it was bad. He stood by the soundboard and watched people throw beer bottles at the stage. The crowd started booing Prince. Morris knew it was time to get out of there. He ran backstage, caught up with Prince, and they went straight to the car. From there, they went right to the airport and flew back to Minneapolis. It was a rough night, and it shook Prince up. Later, Stockley Williams from the band Mint Condition talked about that night. He worked with Prince years later and shared something Prince told him. Prince said that night was so bad that he almost quit music. He felt embarrassed.
He's like, Stokely, when I first went on my first tour, like that Rolling Stones thing, not first tour, but, or maybe it was. And he was telling me I got booed. I was just like, man, I didn't want to come back.
The crowd called him names and threw things at him. He wanted to give up. But Mick Jagger, the lead singer of the Rolling Stones, called Prince personally. Mick told him not to quit and encouraged him to come back and finish the tour. That phone call gave Prince the push he needed to keep going.
And he said Mick Jagger's the one that actually called him back because he quit. You know, he didn't want to go back when he got booed. It's like, I said, what'd you do? He said, I just walked off stage. What could I do?
Morris wasn't sure about that part of the story. He didn't hear Prince say he wanted to quit. When Morris saw Prince after the show, he looked embarrassed but didn't talk about quitting. Still, Morris agreed the experience was hard on Prince. Getting booed and having bottles thrown at you can hurt anyone's confidence. But instead of giving up, Prince used it as motivation. Morris said that once they got back home, Prince went straight into the studio. He didn't waste time. He got back to work right away. Morris believed that moment made Prince even stronger. Even when things were hard, Prince never gave up. He turned pain into power. That night with the Rolling Stones didn't break him. It built him up. And even though Rick James might have felt threatened by Prince, Prince kept moving forward. He didn't let anyone stop him. Morris saw all of that with his own eyes, and he never forgot how Prince handled it all with strength and focus. Back in the day, James was a big star, and many people looked up to him.
This is a man's world.
One day, James offered cocaine to the members of Prince's band. He wanted them to party with him. Maybe he thought that would help them bond or have fun together. But Prince's band said no. They didn't want to take drugs or join that kind of party. This made James angry. He felt like they were looking down on him. He thought they were acting like they were better than him, and he took it as a sign of disrespect. James believed that Prince, and maybe even his band, saw him as old or out of style. This made James feel small. He thought Prince did not respect him as a legend. That hurt his pride. James had worked hard for years, and now this younger artist was acting like he was more important. That made James upset. He couldn't let it go. This was the start of his bad feelings toward Prince. Later, James said that Prince stole his funk style. Funk was a kind of music that James helped create. He felt like Prince copied his sound and made it his own. James didn't like that. He believed Prince should have given him credit. Instead, Prince used the sound and added his own ideas, which made it feel new. But to James, it was still his idea from the start. He felt like Prince took what he built and used it to shine.
James Brown played a big influence on my style.
After Prince opened shows for James on tour, things changed fast. Prince's career took off. He became a big star almost overnight. People all over the world started to know his name. His music was played everywhere. He got a lot of attention and became more popular than James. This made James even more upset. He felt like Prince used him to get ahead and then left him behind. James didn't like watching someone else become the star while he was pushed to the side.
When I was about 10 years old, my stepdad put me on the stage with him, and I danced a little bit until the bodyguard took me off.
James didn't understand Prince's music. He thought it was strange. He didn't like how Prince mixed different sounds and styles. James called it weird, and didn't see the value in it. He liked music that was simple and full of soul. Prince was doing something different, and James didn't respect it. He didn't want to try to understand it either. Instead, he just talked badly about it. When Prince won Grammy Awards, it hit James hard. James wanted those awards. He felt like he deserved them, but Prince got them instead. James thought that was unfair. He worked hard for years and didn't get that kind of reward. Now this young man was getting all the praise. It made James feel forgotten. He started to believe the music world didn't respect him anymore. James said Prince's song, 1999, sounded like something he would have made. He believed Prince copied him again. To James, the beat and rhythm sounded just like his own work, but people didn't seem to care. They loved Prince's song and gave him credit. That made James feel angry and ignored. He thought people were blind to the truth. James also had something to say about Purple Rain. That song became a big hit, and the movie made Prince even more famous. But James didn't want to give him any praise. He said the song was nothing special. He acted like it didn't matter. But deep down, he knew it was powerful. He just didn't want to admit it. James even made fun of Prince's voice. He didn't like how Prince sang in a high voice, also called falsetto. James thought it sounded silly. He laughed about it in interviews. But some people think this was just James trying to tear Prince down because he felt jealous. He saw Prince doing things he didn't like or understand, and he reacted by making jokes. While James often spoke about Prince in interviews, Prince stayed quiet. He didn't talk about James much. He didn't fight back or insult him. He stayed silent and focused on his music. That silence made James even more mad. He wanted a reaction, but Prince gave him none. Rick had a big house, lots of money, and many fans. But behind the fame, Rick James had serious problems. He used heavy drugs like crack cocaine and heroin.
I don't think I've ever made an album other than for the last few years that didn't have cocaine, and I was snorting it. And we'd stay up for weeks making these albums, and we were doing like 3 or 4 albums a year.
Finally today, pop singer Rick James is being accused of all kinds of terrible things, and authorities are taking it very seriously.
These drugs changed the way he acted. He also had bad views about women.
I was off into drugs then at that time, seriously, and it was like a time in my life when things were happening real fast, and I didn't quite have a serious grip on, on things.
He thought he could do whatever he wanted to them. His fame and money made him feel powerful. But in the early 1990s, Rick James did terrible things to 2 women, and it changed his life forever.
James is accused of assault with a deadly weapon, aggravated mayhem, torture, and forcible oral copulation.
In July 1991, Rick James was 43 years old. He was living with his girlfriend, Tanya Hijazi. One day, they met a young woman named Frances Alley at a party. Frances was 24 years old and didn't have a job. Rick and Tanya invited her to stay with them at Rick's house. At first, it may have seemed like a kind offer, but very soon, things turned bad. Rick James thought Frances had stolen his drugs. He pointed a gun at her and said he would kill her if she tried to leave. Frances was very scared.
It was on the nights of July 16th and 17th that alleged victim claimed she became a virtual prisoner here, held at...
Instead of letting her go, Rick and Tanya tied Frances to a chair. She was not wearing clothes. They kept her in the house for several days. During that time, they burned her skin more than 20 times using the hot end of a crack pipe. They also forced her to smoke crack. Frances was trapped. She could not leave, and she was in pain. Rick even made her do sexual acts while he watched. These things were very cruel. Frances had no power and no way to escape.
Held at gunpoint, even tied up and tortured, she claims, by being burnt with the hot end of a crack cocaine pipe.
On the second day, Rick untied her for a short time. Frances took that chance to run away. She escaped from the house and made it to Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. She was badly hurt and needed help. The hospital staff called the police. When the police heard her story, they believed her and quickly issued arrest warrants for Rick James and Tanya Hijazi. The case shocked many people. They couldn't believe that the man who sang fun songs had done something so evil.
I love sex? Yes, abundantly. Do I love women? Yes, totally. Do I love the fact that I have lots of money and I'm rich and famous? And yes, that's real great.
While Rick and Tanya waited for their trial, they were let out of jail on bail. But instead of staying out of trouble, they hurt another woman. In 1992, a music executive named Mary Sauger met Rick and Tanya in a hotel in West Hollywood. She thought it was a business meeting. But things went very wrong. Rick and Tanya had been using cocaine and became angry. They slapped Mary many times and would not let her leave. They beat her for 20 hours straight. Mary was trapped in the hotel room, just like Frances had been trapped in the house. Mary later told the court how she was beaten until she passed out. Then they poured water on her to wake her up and hit her again. She was terrified and thought she might die. The room was fancy, but what happened inside was horrifying. Mary finally got away and went to the police. Her story helped build a strong case against Rick and Tanya. The police arrested them again, and this time the charges were even more serious.
It's getting James out of jail on bail that's proved frustrating. The king of funk is being held on a king's ransom of $1 million bail.
It's a celebrity bail.
Rick James was charged with many crimes. These included assault with a deadly weapon, kidnapping, torture, false imprisonment, and forcing someone to do sexual acts. During the trial, Mary told the court everything that happened to her. While she spoke, Rick James fell asleep in court and began snoring. Many people saw this as a sign of disrespect. It seemed like he did not care about what he had done. He acted like it was no big deal, even though 2 women had suffered greatly. In the end, the court found Rick James guilty of some of the charges. He was convicted for assault and false imprisonment involving Mary Sauger. He was not found guilty of torturing Frances Alley, even though many believed her story. The court said there wasn't enough proof for some parts of her case, but the things he did to Mary were proven. Rick was sentenced to 5 years in prison. Some people thought he should have received a longer sentence, but the court had to follow the law. Rick James went to Folsom State Prison. However, he didn't stay there for the full 5 years. He only served a little over 2 years. He got out early because of something called prosecutorial misconduct. This means the lawyers in charge of the case made some mistakes. Even though he left prison early, his life was never the same. The music industry turned away from him. People no longer wanted to work with him. He lost his fame, and many people saw him differently.
Finally today, pop singer Rick James is being accused of all kinds of terrible things, and authorities are taking it very seriously.
Later, Mary Sauger also took Rick James to civil court. This kind of court is about money, not jail. The judge told Rick that he had to pay Mary $1 million. This was to help her recover from all the pain and damage he caused. It was a big amount, but it could never truly erase what she went through. Mary had scars that money couldn't fix. Rick's actions left a lasting impact on both women. Rick was born James Ambrose Johnson Jr. He grew up in Buffalo, New York, and hated the idea of being sent to fight in the Vietnam War. So, at just 15 years old, he lied his way into the Naval Reserve. But even that didn't last long. Rick didn't like being told what to do. He skipped out on the reserves and spent his time playing drums with jazz bands and experimenting with drugs.
Rick always had an interest in music.
He was always banging on glasses with spoons and stuff. He couldn't stop moving. He was always trying to express what was inside him.
By 1964, the military placed Rick on active duty. But instead of following orders, he told the draft board to kiss his ashy black A and ran away to Toronto, Canada. In Toronto, Rick's life changed. He met famous musicians like Joni Mitchell and Neil Young. Together, they formed a band called the Mina Birds. The group even got signed to Motown Records. At Motown, Rick met Stevie Wonder, who was impressed by his talent. When Stevie asked for his name, Rick gave a fake one, Ricky James Matthews. Stevie suggested he shorten it to Rick James, and the rest is history.
Well, Rick's stay in Canada was the real beginning of his career.
When it came to his career, Rick was all about collaborating with the greats. And let's be real, working with icons doesn't come without a little drama. But somehow, that just made the music better. Take Stevie Wonder. Rick looked up to him like crazy. Stevie didn't just influence him, he gave him advice that stuck. Don't play by the rules, create your own. Rick ran with that idea, building his own sound with layered beats and futuristic touches that totally set him apart. You can thank Stevie for helping Rick's tracks stand out like they did.
That girl is pretty wild, no. Girl's a super freak.
And let's not forget Tina Marie. She wasn't just another duet partner, she was his creative soulmate. Rick found her at Motown, saw her potential, and the rest is history. Their duet, Fire and Desire, absolute legend status. Behind the scenes, they pushed each other hard. Rick challenged her to go bigger and bolder, while Tina fired back with ideas that kept him on his toes. That spark between them? It showed every time they shared a stage or dropped a track together. Pure magic. By the time Rick James was released from prison in 1996, he was no longer a big star. His name was linked more to crime than to music. People remembered him more for hurting women than for making songs. Even though he tried to return to music, the damage was already done. He had lost the respect of fans and the trust of the public. Now, let's talk about James's love life. He had some serious relationships, and some of them ended in heartbreak. In the 1980s, James dated actress Linda Blair. They met after Linda mentioned him in an interview, and that caught his attention. Soon, they started hanging out at the famous Chateau Marmont in Hollywood. But things took a sad turn when Linda got pregnant. Without telling James, she decided to have an abortion. This hurt him deeply. He felt betrayed and heartbroken. He even wrote a song called Cold-Blooded about how she made him feel. Later, in 1990, James met Tanya Hijazi at a party when she was just 17. They started dating, and in 1993, they had a son named Tasman. Their relationship had many ups and downs. Both James and Tanya got into trouble and even went to jail after getting into fights with people. Still, they got married in 1996. But their marriage didn't last. After years of problems, they divorced in 2002. James also had a close relationship with singer Tina Marie. They worked on music together and were even engaged for a short time. Their songs became very popular. When James passed away, Tina was heartbroken. She struggled with addiction because she missed him so much. Rick James died on August 6, 2004. He was 56 years old and died of a heart attack at home. Some fans still remember him for his music, but many also remember the pain he caused to Francis Alley and Mary Sauger.